Good evening. This week marks an important landmark for all of us here at Kol Berama Torah Learning Center. It was exactly 1 year ago, according to the Jewish calendar, that we met as a community at our little congregation on Louisa Street for the last time. Although we did celebrate Purim 2 days later with a festive Megillah reading and a festive meal, we could not yet imagine that the next Shabbos and all the subsequent Shabbatot of the year, we would not be able to meet. We did not fully recognize the magnitude and the consequences of that new word which people were bandying about, Corona, or COVID-19. Interestingly, I remember someone thought it would be humorous on Purim of last year to drink a couple of Corona beers on Purim Day. So here we are 1 year later on Parsha Zachor, remembering what Amalek has done to us throughout the ages, and their legacy of anti-Semitism, which dogs us to this very day. But we also acknowledge the arrival of a new scourge, which no one saw coming, and which has hard, real-world consequences for so many of us. And yet, just as we can take a small measure of comfort from the fact that the Torah assures us and that the Almighty swears by his heavenly throne that the affliction of anti-Semitism will one day disappear, so too we can take perhaps a measure of comfort in the knowledge that with the arrival and the availability of new vaccines, that this scourge of COVID-19 will also eventually be vanquished with time. So this Shabbat is about Zachor, engaging the faculty of our collective memories. There are times when memory requires us to bring to the heretofore long-lost, painful, and tragic memories, which we naturally would prefer to forget. Other times, this year case in point, we need not tax our brain cells too hard to remember the over 2.5 million souls who have perished worldwide as a result of the coronavirus. In Judaism, we believe that things happen for a reason. There are no random coincidences. And if, God forbid, bad things happen to good people, it is a sign that we need to greatly improve, all of us, our spiritual lives. And we can do this through increased kavana, intention, in our prayers, through not just studying Torah, but through more challenging Torah study, maybe on a higher level than we are accustomed to, through increased donations to charity, tzedakah, giving until it hurts, as the saying goes. May the Ribbono Shel Olam heed our prayers, confidently return us to our synagogue, grant us blessings of parnasah, good health, so that we and our children may continue to grow spiritually in Torah, avodah, and gemilut chasadim. In the beginning of our parsha, we come across a pasuk which really acts as an introduction to the main theme of the Parsha, which deals with the details and the aspects of building the traveling temple, also known as the tabernacle. The Pasuk tells us, Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti bitocham, and thou shalt build for me a sanctuary so that I may dwell within them. And all the commentators ask about this seeming non sequitur in the verse. Shouldn't it read, and thou shalt build for me a sanctuary so that I shall dwell in it? That is the tabernacle. What does it mean, in them, bitocham? According to one of the interpreters on our Parsha, the instruction for the construction of the tabernacle came on the heels of the golden calf. Although we don't read about that until next week's Parsha, or actually 2 weeks, we have a rule, ein mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah. There is no strict chronological order in the Torah, and sometimes that which comes later is written first. So initially, according to this idea, after giving the Torah at Mount Sinai, God had intended to plant his presence within the hearts of each and every Israelite, young and old, rich and poor, without any need for a type of intermediary, such as a prophet or a specific structure, building, such as a temple. Had the people proved worthy themselves, they would have immediately been whisked away to the land of Israel without any struggle. They would have all been transformed into a nation of prophets, all on the level of Moses. And they would have dwelt securely in the land of Israel forever. But 40 days later, the sin of the golden calf. After that sin, God saw that these former slaves of Egypt still lacked the spiritual maturity required for this lofty spiritual level of existence. That even after receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai, in a few short days, they had reverted back to their slavish customs of idolatry and immorality. God realized, as it were, that they still required a physical structure, something tangible that they could look at and hold, which they would occasionally could enter in order to grow slowly and gradually into a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a sanctified nation. According to this interpretation, the temple served as a sort of reminder of just how difficult achieving perfection really is, and it would therefore act as a means through which the average Jew could receive the necessary inspiration to gradually achieve spiritual greatness. However, even that challenge ultimately became too difficult for the people to accomplish. In the ensuing years and centuries, both the tabernacle as well as the 2 temples were destined to be destroyed because the people were not worthy. And today, all we have left are the blueprints, the instructions of how to still achieve this spiritual perfection without obtaining the actual temple. How does that work? The Medrash Tanchuma describes how the prophet Ezekiel, who was given the instructions for the third temple, was told in the exile of Babylonia to instruct the people to study the details of the temple, both as it appears in the Torah, the prophets, and Ezekiel chapter 40 through 48. Ezekiel asked God, why? Right now there is no temple, and it doesn't look like it's going to come back anytime soon. God, according to the Medrash, responded to him rhetorically. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYechezkel, Bishvil shabanai nesunim bagola yeh binyan beiti batel? God says, because my children are exiled, should my house therefore remain in tatters? Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kriyasa b'Torah kivinyana. Rather, God tells Yechezkel, the reward for learning of the building of the temple exceeds the actual building itself. Lechem or lahem, v'yitasku likrot surat habayit b'Torah, ubeschar kriyata sheyitasku likrot ba, ani ma'aleh alehem ki'ilu hem oskim bebinyan habayit. Tell the people they should study the laws of the temple or the tabernacle in the Torah and the other sources. And in the merit of this study, I will consider it as if they actually built it. Not the best solution, but what we call in America today, Plan B. But it's more than Plan B, because God recognizes that effort as if it is Plan A. The people of Israel owes its very existence to the embracing of various Plan Bs. If we can build, we will build. If we can't, we study about the building. It is that stubborn tenacity which has kept us alive to this very day. The ultimate goal, surely, is to have Almighty God dwell in our hearts. And when He resides in our hearts, when He is close to us, we can, with His help, perform veritable miracles. We can take a nation of dry bones from the midst of the Holocaust, and we can cover those bones with flesh and blood and vitality. We can take a pulverized post-Holocaust nation and reconstitute it and shape it as a world leader, not only in science, technology, and the arts, but rather, and more importantly, as the premier source of Torah education for the entire world. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, udvar Hashem mirushalayim. We can end our exile, return to our land, defeat our enemies, and ultimately rebuild our temple with the coming of the Mashiach. Amen. A lot to remember this Shabbat. We should have a pleasant and tranquil Shabbat Zachor. Thank you.